Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to the Torture Wracked podcast. My name is Marc.
I'm John F. Malta.
Thank you so much for being with us here today for the inaugural episode of this show. My co-host John is an extremely talented illustrator. You may know him from his work for The New Yorker, New York Times, Adult Swim, Pabst Blue Ribbon, Disenchantment on Netflix, and on AEW television, courtesy of his fantastic Best Friends t-shirt, which you can pick up on shopaew.com. And you may know me from this podcast. I am also a contributor to the Torture Wracked Magazine, issue 4 of which I have contributed an article about the WWE Network special, 20 matches that define the Intercontinental Championship. John, do you want to talk a little bit about the genesis of the Torture Wracked Magazine and also maybe just provide a little update on when people can expect to see the new issue?
Yeah, man.
Was that natural?
Yeah, totally. So totally natural. It's great. I thought that a good way to start this, at least in terms of discussing professional wrestling, my love of professional wrestling and what brought us together, would be to read the introduction essay from the first issue of Torture Wracked. I started Torture Wracked in 2018 as a fanzine, basically just because I'm obsessed with wrestling and I wanted to start making illustrations based around wrestling and writing about wrestling, because I talk about wrestling a lot with you, our friends, and it's something that both of us love a lot, and I wanted to do something with it beyond just having a G-Chat archive of years and years of conversations that happen all day, every day about angles in wrestling and historical wrestling matches. And
I maintain there needs to be like a huge $400 Tashin collection book of just RG chats.
Dude, totally. That is something that I feel like I did go through and screenshot some of them at one point and sent you like the different subjects that we were talking about. It's funny to see the collection of different things we talked about. But so that led to me making the first Torture Wracked zine, which was in 2018, and it was released at Comic Arts Los Angeles in LA. And I'm going to go ahead and read this essay here because it kind of summates my love of professional wrestling, what sort of brought me here, and why I started to make a magazine about it. When I was around the age of 3 or 4 years old, my parents took me to my first professional wrestling show. It was a World Wrestling Federation event at the Richfield Coliseum just outside Cleveland, Ohio. I got to experience an Undertaker match live, cheered for my hero Jake the Snake Roberts, and walked away from the show wearing red foam Legion of Doom spikes. Souvenir I still have to this day. This is one of my earliest memories in this life. I honestly can't recall a moment or memory that is earlier in my mind than this experience of the art of professional wrestling live and in person. Throughout my adolescence and during the Attitude Era, I attended various shows at the Gund Arena, also in Cleveland, Ohio. Most notably, in 1998, I attended the episode of Monday Night Raw after the infamous Mankind vs. Undertaker Hell in a Cell match.
My God.
Yeah. The match that actually headlined that King of the Ring pay-per-view was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kane in a First Blood match, where Stone Cold dropped his title to Kane. The next night on Monday Night Raw in Cleveland, Ohio, Stone Cold Steve Austin won the title back before my eyes. It was insane to see this unfold, as I didn't expect him to win it back so soon. Me and my little brother and my parents wilded out in unison as Stone Cold held his title high and pounded an endless supply of cold ones in celebration with the crowd.
Wow.
So it's insane to think about, but I honestly, like, all of my memories of my life in being like 3 years old, 2 years old, like the earliest memories all revolve around wrestling. And then so many important moments of my life since then, the things that I remember are about professional wrestling. It's the thing that sort of brought my entire family together throughout my life. And now brings me with, people like you who we talk to each other every day, all day, and it's great. And I look forward to like waking up and seeing if you've texted me about something that's happened in wrestling, or, it's It's crazy.
I didn't know I was going to cry on the first podcast.
Yeah. Just professional wrestling, like the power it has to bring people together and to unite different people is so insane. Like when we first, like you and I first, Marc, the host of this podcast, and I know each other through my girlfriend Siobhan. The two of you, I mean, you can talk more about it, but the two of you knew each other in high school, and then I met you. We probably met like 4 years ago, I would say, right?
It's crazy how time flies.
Yeah, I think like 3 years ago, you and I first met, and we didn't talk about wrestling then, but the very first time I remember really being excited about wrestling with you was Tables and Ladders and Chairs 2017, I think.
Okay, I need to look up the...
I remember some of the things that happened, and you can look up the card if you want.
Yeah, I'm looking up the card right now.
It's the crazy TLC. It's probably one of my if we went down and read all the shows of WWE from the last 3 years, like that is one of my favorite WWE pay-per-views because there's a bunch of people got the flu, so then AJ Styles flew across the country to fight Finn Balor, and then Kurt Angle was an honorary member of the Shield that night too.
Yes, he was doing Shield cosplay.
Yeah, in like all his glory. And I feel like that's like one of the last times we really saw Kurt Angle. Like it was a huge deal to see Kurt Angle in the ring, and then just one of the last times we've seen him. I feel like really almost like close to peak Angle, as close to peak Angle as we're going to get in like this decade.
Oh, absolutely. And then they just did nothing with him after that.
Right.
They gave him a black sun, and then they jobbed him out to Baron Corbin in like a really forgettable match.
Yeah. So Marc lives in Canada, in New Brunswick, and I remember that night, TLC 2017, I left my apartment right when the match started to go get Popeye's chicken. And while I was, the drive-thru took a really long time to get through. And while I was in the drive-thru, you were texting me match, like what was happening live on that TLC match. So what was the first match of that TLC?
Asuka versus Emma.
Oh my God, yeah. And that match too, that was weird because the next night Emma had a match on Raw and it was a great match. And then Emma was released.
Right. She had this big tease that she was going to be Emelina. There was all these like promos, right. And then she was Emelina for like, I think one Raw, and then she was Emma, and then she was released.
Yeah. But anyway, so it would have been that match that you're texting me about. But I just remember being in the drive-thru at Popeyes, like so happy to be getting these texts from you and like just realizing like, oh, this is like such a great, and then since then now, because we like live watch everything together, like through GChat, it just being such a great, it's like one of my favorite aspects of my life is like watching wrestling with you and chatting. So it's great.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me with like a very empty life where I
not at all. Seriously, like
I know great. That it annoys Siobhan that we talk so much, and she's like, she'll text me like from your account, like, oh, I don't like wrestling anymore. Like, please don't talk to me ever again. But it just speaks to the power of wrestling. Like if me and Siobhan both watched wrestling, we would be talking all the time. We just don't have that thing that consumes so much of our thoughts that sort of we share. So one mind for two brains. No, one mind for two people.
Oh yeah. What? Yeah. The Golden Lovers. Yeah, the Golden Lovers. Yeah, one mind
from
for two
Kenny
people.
Omega Man.
You and I. Yeah, totally. That was great. But yeah, no, I genuinely think you and I might talk to each other more than I talk to Siobhan, and Siobhan and I like live together.
Certainly in G-Chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't know. Wrestling to me has been such an important part of my entire life, and that's sort of what led to Torture Wracked becoming a magazine. And it's grown from there. I started giving it away at different wrestling events and comic shows throughout 2018 and 2019. And now we're working on the 4th issue, which Marc has contributed to. Our friend Thomas has some great stuff in it. Brainbuster, wrestling photographer, has contributed to it. Not the 4th issue, but past issues. Michael Watson. And it's just brought me together with so many people that I consider my best friends now, and to have it now turn into this, which is a podcast where we're able to like discuss and talk about this thing we love, is so exciting. And the fourth issue right now, it should be done in June. I basically just have to make all of the illustrations for the issue now. Like I was just telling you that I was illustrating Double J for your Intercontinental title article.
Yes.
Just finished drawing Neidhart and British Bulldog smoking crack together before Bulldog's historic match with Bret Hart.
Little teaser. Little teaser.
Yeah. So happy I got to draw that. But yeah, the issue turned into something much bigger than what everyone who subscribed to Torture Wracked is probably expecting, since the first few issues are fanzines. So they're, probably at most, maybe the longest issue is 32 pages. Like the second issue is just 2 fold-out posters. The third issue, which was an all AEW issue, that I think was around 32 pages and featured some great photographs from Michael Watson, Brainbuster.
Which one is your drawing of Joey Janela and Penelope Ford from?
That's from the first issue. That is one of my
favorite drawings that you've ever done. We will definitely include it in the notes on this podcast, but you need to check it out. And what is it like when you watch AEW Dynamite and see your own illustration for the Best Friends t-shirt come up?
Dude, it's insane. It feels weird that it is actually on AEW Dynamite. It blows my mind every single time I see it. And it is honestly probably my favorite place that I've seen my work. Like I've done a lot. I've been working as a commercial illustrator for almost a decade now, and I've seen my work in lots of different places. As Marc rattled off at the beginning, but to see it end up on like a weekly wrestling show is completely surreal, and being worn by 2 wrestlers that I really like a lot, that I've seen wrestle in Japan and watch wrestle in Japan, and I've kind of like followed to some degree for a while now. For that to come about is totally insane. And that whole shirt came about thanks to a friend. Basically thanks to me starting Torture Wracked as well. That first issue that I made, that I released at Comic Arts Los Angeles, I met 2 people at Comic Arts Los Angeles that are the publishers of Mind Games Magazine, which is another great professional wrestling magazine. I met Kevin and Adam at Comic Arts Los Angeles, and me and Kevin traded zines then, which led to me starting to make illustrations for their project, Mind Games Magazine. And in their second issue, I illustrated the Best Friends, and Trent and Chuck saw it and asked me to do a shirt. So yeah,
I actually was going to ask because I didn't know how that came about.
Yeah. Awesome. Actually, maybe it's the first issue. No, it's the first issue of Mind Games Magazine. I take that back. Yes, it's in the issue that Bandito is on the cover. So it's the first issue.
I have that one.
Yeah,
I think you gave me that one. Yeah.
I did. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's the first issue. Second issue has Joey Janela on the cover, and the third one is going to have Liger on the cover. It looks very sick.
Much like your shirt.
Exactly. So
for those Patreon subscribers who are watching the video.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, the shirt came about through Kevin, Adam, and Mind Games Magazine, and then Trent and Chuck just seeing the drawings in there, and then reaching out and asking me to do a shirt. But yeah, it's completely surreal to see it, because now we've regularly been watching Dynamite since its inception, and it's been Best Friends wear it every so often, every couple of weeks. I feel like it pops up, and it's wild.
I love we were watching Double or Nothing, and we were texting. We're like, okay, yeah, Best Friends are here. No shirts. I think Thomas said no shirts. And then when they ran in to help, was it Orange or?
Yeah, it was Orange. I think it was during the ladder match. Yeah.
Yeah, they ran in and they were wearing their shirts, and I just texted you immediately. I was like, they're wearing the shirts. They're wearing the shirts. I pop huge. Like I pop on Dynamite, but seeing it on Double or Nothing, which was like
totally
the 1 year anniversary of AEW being a company, and just like reflecting on like how great that year has been, and like how cool it has been to like watch it from the beginning. Just to like give a little bit of my own background as just a wrestling watcher, it was something that I loved as a kid, and it brought me and several friends together, much how it has brought us together now. But it was something that I definitely fell out of at a certain point. I remember all the time going to Canadian Tire and seeing they had VHS tapes of like old WrestleManias that I'd never seen before, like WrestleMania 10. I can remember seeing that VHS tape, and when you're like a kid and you just don't have any money at all, you just can't buy it. And now I just think back in my head, I'm like, why didn't I buy all those tapes? Because I was a child and I was absolutely poor. Not like our family wasn't poor, but just as a kid, you have no money. So I think back about that. But I also remember my dad, like when I was a kid, we would wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday, go to the farmer's market together, listen to Steve Miller Band cassette tapes and The Simpsons Sing the Blues cassette tapes, and just drive around to yard sales looking for old wrestling VHSs. And I think I got WrestleMania, I want to say 8, where it should have been Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair, but instead it was Macho Man versus Flair and Hogan versus Sid. Was that 8?
I'm not sure, actually. I
think it was 7 or 8. But anyway, I remember getting that VHS tape and going to Midnight Video and always trying to rent WrestleMania 2000. They had the cassette tape, but someone had rented it and never returned it. So it was just never in. And I just wanted to see it so bad. Of course, finally watching WrestleMania 2000 years later, it's a terrible WrestleMania. But like it was like my holy grail when I was a kid. I remember renting 14 and 15 from Dunn's Variety for like 99 cents and just trying to like just suck up all I could. And yeah, I was definitely into it during the Attitude Era as well, probably from 99 to around 2001. Definitely watched probably all of those pay-per-views. And then at a certain point getting older, I just like was getting into like drama and stuff, and I didn't think it was I didn't think it was cool, and I sort of like broke up with like some of my friends who like that was our main thing. And yeah, just kind of like just sort of turned my back on it. Like I think like a lot of people probably did as they got older, just like thinking it wasn't cool anymore. And then I only came back when we started talking about it. So what was that, like 4 years ago?
Yeah, I feel like it was 2017. I don't know the exact time frame that we started watching it. I remember like going over your apartment and you having like an NXT match up. I don't remember what the match was, but you were just like, "Oh, I got to get caught up on some NXT matches." And I was like, "Oh, you watch wrestling? What?"
Yeah.
And yeah, then that led to us starting to talk to each other more. And I know that we watched pay-per-views before TLC 2017 together, but not many. Like that was maybe that was the first, I think TLC 2017 was the first time where there was like a plan that week. Like, dude, TLC 2017 is Sunday. Definitely you're available. We're watching live together, right? And then after that, since then, so now it's only been like 3 years that we've been watching like all WWE pay-per-views, and now all Dynamite Weekly together.
Yeah, this totally tracks, because I remember suddenly right around WrestleMania 31, I had not watched a wrestling pay-per-view in probably like 20 years or something, like 15 years. And then just suddenly I was like, I really want to watch WrestleMania. And it wasn't even a particularly like good card. Like I think the main event was Roman Reigns versus Triple H, which is just not what I'm interested in.
Dude, that's funny though, because that's like the same feeling I had when I started watching WWE again after not watching it for so long. Like, I think it's interesting that so like obviously like that's it, like most wrestling fans fell off after like the ruthless aggression era, and you know everyone that did missed so many great things, including myself. Like really between ruthless aggression and I think it was WrestleMania maybe 33 that I was like felt the same way. Like, oh, I want to watch a WrestleMania. I miss like watching WrestleMania and this kind of like, there's a WWE pay-per-view. We got to order a bunch of sick food and like sit down and watch pay-per-view together.
I used to go to the Cineplex and watch them.
Whoa. Like and in a movie theater?
Yeah. They stopped doing that pretty much
sick.
Right when I got back into it.
I don't think, they definitely, as far as I know, that was not a thing that you could do in the States. That's a really cool, that would be such a cool experience. Like, I
remember my friend Zan used to get all the pay-per-views on his TV, so we'd go over and watch it. And also my friend Matt, who I like broke up with because I was like, I don't like wrestling anymore and I don't think we should be friends. I don't know why. Like, it's so silly now because I'm back into it and I have all my old wrestling figures and I'm like so glad I didn't throw them out. But it's interesting. I started watching YouTube before I started watching wrestling. Like I started watching YouTube reviews of different wrestling matches and did that for like, I think a year before I even started watching wrestling again.
Dude, I did
interested in being current on it.
Yeah, totally. Like I think that's the only thing like between like 2002 maybe and 2016, 2017, all I did was watch YouTube clips. And like the one thing that kept me and my little brother watched throughout that time was just backyard wrestling on YouTube. Like that was like the only thing that was like, oh, this is like kind of like what we loved. Because Charlie is my little brother. We both loved ECW when we were kids, like a lot of people did, and we're obsessed with New Jack and obsessed with Balls Mahoney and Sandman, and all of the characters in ECW seemed like, I don't know, we were really drawn to how wild and crazy they were. And in retrospect, it's like they were such crazy, like violent cartoons that it makes sense that so many kids were drawn to those characters. It's like Nickelodeon, if Nickelodeon could have a live action wrestling show, it would be ECW. And between like 2000 and 2017, really the only wrestler that I kept looking up was New Jack. Just because I liked New Jack so much and was so intrigued by his matches, his aura, his persona, what was real, what was fake. Like I remember him having a lot of shoot interviews on YouTube with, I think it was Balls Mahoney, where they had this feud that seemed real, where it seemed like they actually hated each other, but I'm not sure if that was real or if that was fake. And the thing that I love about New Jack is his ability to blur the line of like what is character and what is reality, to the point that you have no idea. So you don't know what you're watching, if he's just a character the entire time and, or this guy is who he is. And it's a little bit of both. And that's why he's, I feel like, such a good character in wrestling, and why he was someone that I kept looking up, because, he's an interesting person to read about what he's done. And in that would watch, I remember being in my apartment in New York in like 2012 with my little brother, looking up like, there's this wrestling promotion, and whoever's listening to this, I would love for you to send me clips of this if you can find it. There's a wrestling promotion in New York City that fought at playgrounds. So they had entrances like where they would like come out of like the slide, but it would be a dude, like a big dude, like it was like a big dude that should be like looks like someone who's like an actual wrestler fighting other wrestlers. And it was typical like backyard style wrestling, where it was like a few people who seemed like, oh, those guys definitely trained and are wrestlers. And the other people who are like, that's just a crazy looking person that wants to hit someone with a trash can and weapons. But there was a promotion that fought at playgrounds all over New York City. And I don't remember, it's like, me and my little brother feel like we're making it up because we've looked through YouTube so much and cannot find it. So I wonder,
did they ever like break anything in the playground? Like, did they put someone through like a picnic table, or like
no
slam through the slide?
No, and there were substantial groups of people. Like, I don't know how it never got shut down, but there were substantial groups of people watching that. But that was like what I was watching wrestling wise from like 2000, like from like high school to like basically 2016 or 2017, like kind of up until I seen a clip of the Young Bucks crotch chopping in a ring from corner to corner with Kevin Steen. And I was like, who are these people? This is insane, which then led to me eventually watching Being the Elite, discovering New Japan, and like, finding lots of things to love about wrestling currently. Yeah. Do you remember for yourself, like what it was that really like brought you totally back into it? Do you think it was just us talking more about it?
I'd like to say it was us because that would make great podcast material, but
like prior to that, separate from me, you're obviously watching it too, though. Like,
yeah, I was watching it and I was talking with people I absolutely would never talk to otherwise about wrestling. And I think that was always what it was for me. It was like, okay, this is something I'm going to have to talk to whoever watches it, because I'm not going to find someone who's like one of my friends who also watches it that I could talk to about. So knowing that you watched it, I was like so happy. I was like, this is a cool guy who like watches wrestling. That's awesome. I'm going to fucking talk to him about it. I'm going to ask him about if he's seen the TNA three-way dance, Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, which is maybe, yeah, I think maybe I actually, I think what really got me back was, oddly enough, Omega Okada.
The series being so big?
Yeah, like, I remember someone saying that was like one of the best matches ever, and it was like an hour long. So I watched the first one, and I think watching those, I realized how much of an art wrestling could be and like how much storytelling is involved. Just, yeah, how great they could be. So I watched those matches like on YouTube and tried to show them to my other friends who were sort of into them, but not like the length of it. And I was like, how can you not see this as like one of the greatest things ever? And then I was watching a little bit of WWE, but not necessarily enjoying it that much, but enjoying getting back into the routine of watching certain things.
Yeah, just being invested in like an angle or watching a storyline unfold.
I haven't been able to watch any WWE TV regularly. Like any Raws or SmackDowns. Every week I watch reviews of them and update videos on YouTube, but I just find them so long and so bloated, so much backstage segments like I could care less about. And then when it comes to matches, just not actually giving matches the length they deserve to sort of breathe, which I think we should start talking about Double or Nothing, because we were talking about the best friends and you doing the t-shirt, and the pre-show match on Double or Nothing is the best friends versus Private Party for the number one contendership. And this was just on the buy-in. This was free on YouTube. And this match went, I think, about 15 minutes. Yeah. And it felt like it was about 20. And not to always have to draw these comparisons, I know you specifically said you didn't want to compare too much of like between WWE and AEW, but I thought this pre-show match was absolutely fantastic. And actually, just by giving it about 5 to 10 extra minutes, really let it breathe, and actually was it like a match I really could invest in.
Yeah, well, I think it just speaks to like why we both are regularly watching AEW also, and just the pre-show was like it was a wrestling match, and that's it.
It was one match for the entire like 30-minute pre-show.
Right. Yeah, like there was maybe 5 minutes of talking before and 5 minutes of talking after, but we were there to watch wrestling and sitting and talking with each other because we wanted to watch a wrestling match, and we got to see a great like intro wrestling match that set up like one of my favorite pay-per-views I've watched. I think, I don't know, ECW One Night Stand 1 is my all-time favorite pay-per-view, but I think Double or Nothing 2 is a very close second now.
It was really good. It had something for everybody. Like if you were into spot fests and like crazy matches like the Casino Ladder match, like, and the Stadium Stampede, obviously. If you were just looking for like good old-fashioned wrestling matches, Cody versus Archer, MJF versus Jungle Boy, had, in my opinion, the best AEW women's match ever, Sheeta versus Nyla Rose. We got to see Brody Lee fight in an actual match, not just a squash match, against Jon Moxley, which really delivered. Should we just go through these matches one by one?
Yeah, totally. The Casino Ladder match, I feel like I had high expectations for it just because of what it was, and like definitely for me over delivered of what I imagined would happen. Like Darby's spot at the start of that was really, really insane.
With the skateboard through the ladder.
Yeah, and just the way he falls. I know he's like, he could take a lot of pain, and that's like a part of who he is just as a person, not even as a performer. But I legitimately thought he had hurt himself just because of the way he was like rolling around and
the way he jumped up right afterwards and was like selling it so hard.
I feel like
it must hurt. It must hurt so much.
It had to hurt so bad. But also at the same time, like I think the reason maybe he's able to like sort of sell that so well too is because he skateboards. So like he knows what it really like. I mean, obviously that the act of jumping off a ladder onto another ladder with a skateboard and then hitting the ground just in general would hurt. But then also just the fact that he skateboards and has legitimately fallen very hard on concrete, he sort of knows what that feels like and is able to sort of incorporate that into his wrestling, which is I think what makes him such a cool performer and why he's one of my personal favorites in AEW. But yeah, that match was insane. What did you think of the surprise entrant at the end?
Brian Cage. He looks like Wolverine a little bit with his facial hair, right?
Dude, that's really funny. Like I was talking to another friend about that, him as a surprise, and they were not that excited that it was Brian Cage, but my reasoning for liking Brian Cage is because he reminds me of like an X-Men villain. His name and the way he looks. He looks like 1993 like X-Force villain. Like
he's like Juggernaut mixed with Wolverine.
Yeah,
which totally. I guess is like Sabretooth, basically.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it's like issue 26 of like random 1990s X-Men. Open it up. Brian Cage is like he would have like a robotic arm, but then pretty much just look and dress the way he dresses in AEW and in wrestling.
You think that they're taking Jim Cornette's all petite wrestling jabs too seriously and are now like loading the roster with beef? Because there's a lot of beef that has just come onto the roster.
Dude,
Brody Lee, Lance Archer, Brian Cage. I'm forgetting someone, I think. But there's a lot of hosses.
I mean, Butcher is on there. I think Butcher's one of my like low-key favorite hosses on the roster. Like just in general, yeah. Like, I don't know. There is a lot of beef on the roster now.
It's like they're bringing in a lot of like bad guys who are huge.
Totally.
To fight the like underdog.
Like scrappy.
Yeah, you're like your Young Bucks and Kenny Omegas and stuff.
But yeah, that match was so sick, and I was really excited to see Brian Cage at the end. Like, I'm excited that he's in AEW. Did you see?
He really went. Him and Lucha together in the ring were fantastic.
Dude, that was sick. And then him throwing Darby off of
with the ladder,
like on the ladder out of the ring, insane.
It seemed pretty obvious that whoever the mystery opponent was going to win the match.
Yeah, I see, and that like the whole night, in my mind, a lot of the like people that I thought were going to win won, with the exception of maybe one match, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like it's like for so long now we're like trained to like expect the not obvious thing to happen or like a swerve or something, and now it's just like, oh yeah, there's these logical arcs that they're building.
Yep.
Really
all the stories made sense. Like Jake the Snake put a snake on Brandy Rhodes and, humiliated her. And Jake has just been, very saying derogatory things about women. And, Archer is just a heel who beats up people on his way out to the ring. So
dude, that Suzuki-gun energy in AEW is fucking awesome. Yeah, I love that he comes out brawling.
I won't get ahead of myself here, but I thought the casino ladder match was like a solid B. Like it didn't hit that chaotic energy at any point that I was like a little bit hoping for in one of those opening matches. Like when Cage got buried under the like chairs and like ladders and stuff, that was like a little bit WWE for me. Like I don't know. It didn't entirely work for me.
Dude, but it led to Joey Janela Death Valley drivering.
Yes.
Who did he Death Valley Driver?
I feel like it was maybe.
Orange Cassidy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Orange Cassidy.
What did you think of Orange Cassidy, like, and his investment in that match?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like his character is someone that has been cool to see develop on the AEW roster and sort of like come like he's doing what he did in indie shows that I've seen him at and now on national TV. I feel like he's like one of the few people on the roster too. It's like AEW has this roster of people, all of which have this like mass appeal outside of wrestling that upsets like old school wrestling fans where it's like that's not wrestling, but it's like this is what wrestling is in 2020. Maybe you do not like what that is, but it doesn't make it not wrestling. It's like
I don't buy that, because we went back we did a WCW Supercard and we watched Midnight Express versus somebody, I can't remember who, but I just remember watching that match and seeing Jim Cornette and just seeing some of the silly stuff they did, and I was like, wrestling's always like had this silly edge. If everything was like this, if it was everyone in the roster was Orange Cassidy or Marco Stunt, it would be quite annoying. But I thought that Double or Nothing was such a like proof in the pudding that like there's so much for everybody on these cards. The only reason I threw to you on Orange Cassidy was because I remember you being like, he doesn't know how a ladder match works.
That was
he doesn't want to win.
Yeah, well,
damn.
It wasn't that I liked that he did what he did, but the thing that I was like, well, everyone knows how to open a ladder. Like, you know how to open a ladder, right? Like, everyone knows how to open a ladder.
That's very fair. They definitely teased a Jimmy Havoc versus Orange Cassidy match.
Dude, that's
Jimmy Havoc
sick.
Coming in and choking Orange with his tie.
Yeah, I hope we see more Jimmy Havoc. I know that he was like in England for a lot of last year for some reason, so yeah, it'd be cool to see him in AEW more now.
And I love that Brian Cage was accompanied by Taz, who is his manager. I think managers are the best. I love how AEW has a bunch of managers. I think it's fantastic.
Dude, Taz's intensity at the end of that was really cool to see, because he's been pretty like even keel, like sports broadcaster for AEW, even in those backstage segments with like Darby. So like, yeah, him like screaming again and like announcing like Brian Cage is here. Like, it's awesome. I love the pairing of the two of them. Did you see that Brian Cage is going to face Moxley at Fyter Fest?
No, I didn't see that. Did they announce that like today?
Yeah, I was reading it. I mean, I don't know if it was a rumor that I read, but it was announced as part of in Tony Khan's like media scrum. He said Fyter Fest would have happened in England, but it's obviously not happening right now because of coronavirus. And the main event will be Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley. So that match is going to be insane.
Kind of loving just like feeding all these huge scrappers to Jon Moxley.
Totally.
Because whenever, the very over babyface becomes champion, it's like in my head, it's like a countdown to when we start hating this person or when they like lose their like cool aura.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Moxley was a little bit in risk of that when he fought Hager at Revolution, because I thought that match really kind of under-delivered, and I had to keep reminding myself like, oh yeah, Moxley was in New Japan fighting Ishii in the G1, and it was like incredible, and he's an incredible wrestler. Him fighting Juice over the IWGP
US title.
Thank you very much. IWGP US, because I thought that was like kind of a crappy match, but now seeing him fight Brody Lee, I think it was obvious that the weak link in that match was Hager.
Oh, you're saying the match that was not good, Hager Mox. You did not like
Hager Mox. I was like, I wasn't sure if Mox was gonna kind of be that cool champion, like if he was having kind of mediocre matches.
Yeah, well, in that match, I would say announcing that it was the best empty arena match ever, I feel like set everyone's expectations up really high. And I thought the match was fine. Like, I liked it. It was good. definitely not my favorite Moxley match of the last couple of years. And I absolutely love Moxley and pretty much every match that I can think of outside of that match, really.
Well, Moxley Omega, like their non-sanctioned lights out match was,
dude, even Moxley 10.
Fucking 10.
I genuinely, that match. I thought that match was a solid TV title match, and I mean, I don't necessarily like 10 or the Dark Order, but just the match itself was solid for a quick TV title defense, and more fun to watch than Hager Mox. I don't know. Yeah, maybe just like I don't totally love Jake Hager, and I like him as like Jericho's goon in the background.
I think he serves a fantastic purpose, but it's not to be like the main title contender.
Yeah, it was during coronavirus too, so like maybe it would have been.
I know I'm so harsh on things.
Better like if there was a crowd there. Who knows? I don't know. They built it up. I remember really enjoying all the pre-match promo stuff. Like the packages were all really nice. Like
the packages were actually fantastic.
Really
and they really sold me on the match. And so when the match kind of under-delivered, I was just a little worried. Like I'm always worried that they're going to botch something. You know, Mox will be champion, and it seems like it's always more fun when the champion, when the good guy's chasing the championship than when he's on top. But then when you think about the Attitude Era, Stone Cold was
like long, dominant, badass title reigns.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
It's like a different sort of thing, and I feel like that's like what should happen now. Is like, let Jon Moxley have a bunch of awesome title matches, like for another year even, and then let someone beat him, and then that will be even more meaningful then, anyways, when they finally beat like the person who's been undefeated for a year and a half or however long. I guess a year. He's been champion since Revolution, right? Yeah. What did you think of MJF versus Wardlow? MJF versus Jungle Boy.
MJF versus Jungle Boy. This was a match that they set up this week on Dynamite or last week?
It was only a couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a big build, and I remember thinking like, oh, they're just gonna start to kind of book matches on this card to fill it out, and they did that also with like Shawn Spears versus Dustin.
Yeah. That was set up through just a promo, basically. Like a taped promo.
Basically, they just said to MJF, like, you're fighting Jungle Boy. And he was like, what? And that was like the whole setup for the match. So I remember being like, oh, I'm not really hyped for this. And it completely shattered my expectations. Like, I thought it was on any other, actually, Thomas said it fantastic. He said on any other night, this would be match of the night.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was so good.
Just such a classic wrestling match. And watching it I was watching highlights before this pay-per-view, before this podcast, just to like remember everything that happened. And just seeing that match and fast forward, I was like, it blows my mind how good Jungle Boy is, because we all know how good MJF is, but Jungle Boy is like, it's going to be amazing when he finally wins the AEW championship, like 5 years down the line.
Dude, totally. Yeah.
He's fantastic. Yeah, I thought that was great. I thought that was probably a solid A-.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. That match was really fun to watch. Like, I don't know. I think just I had no expectations for that match, and really I wasn't not excited to see it, but I wasn't the most interested in seeing that match out of all the matches that were scheduled for the pay-per-view. And I feel like it definitely over-delivered on
no doubt
what I was anticipating.
And then Cody versus Lance Archer came up next, and I just I'm so baffled by this placement on the card. Like, I can't figure it out. It felt like this was the best build they had for any match coming in. They have been building it literally since the day after the last pay-per-view.
Dude, it's got to a laughable point of how important this match felt. Jake the Snake,
Mike Tyson,
Arn Anderson, Mike Tyson. Like, it's like, what other things can we add to this match to make it seem more important, like so important, and in a good way, like in a good way, like laughable.
It was the match I was
like,
absolutely the most excited for going in.
Yeah, it's like Jake cuts like a bunch of incredible promos calling him Cody Caesar. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like you and I have talked so much over the last like month about like how important this match has felt, how excited we were to see this match, how excited we were to see Lance Archer in AEW have like a big match and a big feature like this. And honestly, the match seemed like, going into it, this match seemed like the match of the pay-per-view.
No doubt. And seeing it go on third on the main card, like I just thought that was strange. But you know what? Credit to them. This pay-per-view was built perfectly. Like I think that was probably the thing that was most striking to me, is just how well sequenced these matches were. Like starting with that Best Friends versus Private Party, giving that away on the pre-show, just an excellent B+ match. Starting the main card with a ladder match, which always like gets the crowd going. Then a pitch perfect technical wrestling match between MJF and Jungle Boy, and then the match that we've all been waiting for. We're 3 matches into the card, feeling like this could end right now, and it would be a great pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's wild to feel that way, because I remember at during, what was the Full Gear was their last pay-per-view of 2019, right? That's the final pay-per-view of that year for them.
I think so.
I remember during that pay-per-view feeling like, messaging you and feeling like before the last 2 matches of that card, which were Cody, Jericho, Mox, Omega in the unsanctioned match. Remember before those 2 matches feeling like, this just feels like I paid $50 to watch Dynamite, like up until that point. Like the card, it was really fun to watch together, but like, I don't know, to pay like $50 in the year 2019 for a pay-per-view is a big thing, and not like, obviously my parents bought pay-per-views for us when we were kids, so it's not something I've done a lot in my adult life. I remember feeling up to that point, I don't know if like, I'm going to keep paying $50 just to watch another heightened Dynamite in a bigger arena. But then those 2 matches happened. They were worth, the last match alone, Omega versus Moxley, was worth paying $50 to see. Basically built it like a UFC card almost, like these 2 big title matches. Similarly with this, it's like, oh, if this pay-per-view ended after this, I would have been like, I'm kind of getting to the point that like, if this match it's a Cody versus Archer match ended the pay-per-view, I would have been I was like, oh, that was worth $50. Seen a sick ladder match, cool MJF versus Jungle Boy match, and then Cody and Archer, and then an opener with Best Friends and Private Party. It's like that. It's incredible watching AEW over the last year build to a point where it's like you could watch 4 matches on a card, and it's like, well, that was worth $50 to see those 4 matches.
I was actually even a little worried. I get worried a lot, clearly, but I was worried. I was like, oh, did they peak this pay-per-view too early? Like,
dude, not at all. Yeah,
it didn't happen at all. Because Cody versus Lance, I thought that was on its way to being like a great match, but the ending was a little bit unsatisfying for me. We had like Arn Anderson interfering. I guess it's sort of interesting that you have the baby faces manager and not the heels manager interfering. So that gives the eventual victory by Cody like a little bit of, it's contestable by Archer. So I guess it makes Archer seem strong. And Cody also had to hit him with like every finisher that his family ever came up with. It was like he did his dad's finisher, he did his brother Dustin's finisher, and then he did 2 of his own Crossroads.
Too much going on at the end.
Yeah, it was a little overbooked, but that was a solid A- for me.
Did not like Arn's interference at all. No. It was I don't know, just because in that match, I mean, not that there needs to be like that match very clearly had a heel and a baby face the way it was built. And not that things can't be blurred or there needs to be this, like this person that a heel does this and the baby face does this. But I just found it very weird that like the good guys would interfere when the bad guys hadn't done anything. Like Jake was shit talking on the side.
Yeah.
But I feel like that didn't warrant like Arn coming in and like, I don't know. And also that spot was weird too, because Archer was just like waiting there for it to happen kind of like, and then it happens. And then there's the stuff, I mean, the stuff with Mike Tyson too. I mean, it's like cool that Mike Tyson was a part of it like that, even if it was just maybe only that part of it where it's like Mike Tyson is stopping Jake from bringing the snake in.
That makes perfect sense.
Like a cool background. We have Mike Tyson here. We should do something with him.
he punches out Jake the Snake.
Yeah, like
instead, Jake just comes out with the bag and then just kind of like presents it and then just kind of.
I mean, I'm happy to not see it. I don't want to see any more snakes, just based off of how poorly they were historically treated. I'm sure, like now they're being, with how good AEW is about everything, I'm sure they're being treated fine. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't need to see animals in wrestling in 2020. Yeah, but yeah, that match was great, and I'm glad to see Cody with the belt. He looks great with the title.
We have to talk about the title for a second, because when that thing came out,
in progress title
did not understand what was happening. I was like, how do they build to this title match? They talk about it for so much. They had it in a velvet bag on the pre-show, and then it looks like you said, like a fan-made title, basically.
They should have primed us on the pre-show that it wasn't done.
Absolutely. And then I heard why it wasn't finished. Did you hear this? It's because the company who was making it, they actually had to make ventilators for the pandemic.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's such a good reason to have an unfinished title.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And I just assumed, because people online said coronavirus was the reason.
Yeah, I had to look that up, and I heard it today, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's very satisfying. But seeing the two of them together, I sent you that picture of Moxley with the AEW World Championship and Cody with the TNT title, and you said it looked like a dapper fan with like his
totally.
Yeah. That's exactly what it looked like. Like the guy had paid like $3,000 to meet Moxley after the show.
Yeah, this rich dude that wears sick outfits like made a title to stand with Moxley. Like that's what that picture looks like. With how like I before this though, I was listening to dude. Cody can sell anything. He's like the best talker on planet Earth. I was listening to media interview with Cody, and he said he doesn't want the title to be fixed, like to have it be finished, because that was the title he was given on the night he became the champion.
Which is weird because he didn't look that psyched about it.
I mean, he knew what it looked like, I'm sure. It's not like that was the first time he's seen it. I'm sure he knew what he was getting. But yeah, I don't know.
I know we read a lot of Reddit, Squared Circle, and I was looking at it during this match, and people just like do not like Cody, and I don't understand it, because I feel like,
dude, Cody rules. Yeah,
every big match he's delivered, like him versus Dustin is in contention for one of the best matches in AEW history over the last year.
One of the best matches in recent history. Yeah,
agreed. His match with Jericho was really, really, really good. And yeah, I thought this match with Archer was on its way to being an A. If there hadn't been all that tomfoolery at the end, like that was just a wrestling match. They should have just let that finish.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like, I don't know. That's like a lot of the shit that you can read online. It's like people jump on like a bandwagon of hate with all of that and just let it spiral out of control. Like I was telling you that, like I was at Final Battle at Hammerstein Ballroom when Cody first dyed and bleached his hair, and he came out and like revealed it, like ripped his hood off and he had bleached blonde hair. And I was like, oh damn, this is the guy now. Like I loved what he looked. I love that look. I love how he looks really cool with blonde hair. And like was at a live event, so I obviously wasn't reading the internet while I was there. But then I got home and like there's so much hate online for him dyeing his hair. It's like before he just kind of was like, I mean, he had like a cool look, but I would say he looked more like a generic like wrestler with brown hair. And with his blonde hair, it's like, oh, this is like a superstar. And like I told you while we were watching Archer versus Cody, it's like, it's just so cool to see two people with such distinct looks like going at it and the way they did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that match was awesome.
If there's going to be hate for Cody, it has to be over one of these two things. One of them is obviously his neck tattoo, which I have to imagine the moment of him unveiling that was the exact opposite of him unveiling his blonde hair. Just kind of like this, like,
yeah, I did not. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. However, he's free to do what he wants. And, but him driving the SUV like 5 feet to hit the barricade, like, Why did they even do that?
Even like it's like obviously like calling back to the Attitude Era, but like if you go back, there's that time where Stone Cold drives like an actual like fucking semi to the ring, and it moves the Titantron in a way where it's like, is that Titantron gonna like fall on the crowd? But here it's like, oh, I better not nick this car. This like if it's his truck, I better not nick my truck. If it's a truck
or the barricade, like it was like you had to return the barricade to the store.
Tony Khan's Daly's place, like it's like
just like don't do
so
that.
Lame. Yeah,
like don't do that because the brawl between them was awesome. Like totally, when they were fighting and stuff, like it was awesome. And yeah, they gave it in the ring. And I thought AEW is fantastic at protecting people in losses. Like Archer, he had like Cody had to cheat and he had to hit several finishers, and Archer looked very strong in defeat. And I can't wait to see what he's gonna do. Like if he's just gonna tear people up on Dynamite, because he was already on a tear before this, and him being pissed off that he didn't win the TNT title.
Well, and that's like Suzuki Goon's MO. Basically, it's like Minoru Suzuki loses, goes on a tear, fucks people up, says he's gonna give them food poisoning, Like he last year, did you see that last year? Like people were interviewing Minoru Suzuki being left out of the G1, and his response was someone could get food poisoning, and like was basically like insinuating that he was going to poison someone so he could be in the G1.
I remember you telling me about this.
But like, yeah, just like I think Archer is the kind of person, like it would have been great if he won, but he's also the kind of person that's going to go on and be like the AEW champion also. Like I feel like let Cody established the TNT title, and then, have some people who are like kind of working their way up to the world title, like Darby, Sammy, like all of those people can now feud with Cody for the belt. I'm sure that we'll see like a Cody Darby feud, since they have kind of like tagged and sort of fought each other over the last year, and AEW is so good at like giving you like that long-term payoff. So I could imagine possibly Darby being the person to be the first to take it off of Cody in the future. Also,
that's been built up pretty well. Do you think? I think one of the things is like obviously when you start your own company, people are going to be watching for you to book yourself too strong. Do you think that Cody has won too many matches? The only one I'm going to just jump in and answer my own question.
I think he's lost a lot, hasn't he?
He lost to MJF.
He like really loves to lose. It seems like
who else did he lose to?
I thought it was just in storyline he can't even challenge for the title. He lost to Jericho.
But that was because MJF threw in the towel.
He went to a draw with Darby at it Fighter Fest, I think, or Fight for the Fall. I think it was Fighter Fest.
Okay, I think I'm just pissed off that he beat Shawn Spears.
Oh my God! Yeah, your boy Shawn Spears.
Shawn Spears has been taking.
The match, their big match when Shawn Spears was the chairman.
Yeah,
they kind of have stopped. I'm glad they stopped that actually. I like the lights out with the spotlight on him, like him being kind of jumping ahead to Shawn Spears a little bit, but Shawn Spears has been killing it as a comedian, and I think it's kind of good he didn't win that back then.
I guess I just like I feel really badly for Shawn Spears. Like he has won almost no matches, and at this point he's basically just like R-Truth of AEW. Like that match between him and Dustin, like it was funny, and it was definitely like having this was like a good breather between all these like epic matches. But I don't know. I feel like he is one of the people that they were like, oh, they're wasting him in WWE. Like, let's see what they do with him in AEW. And I feel like he's in an even worse spot in AEW than he was in WWE at this point. Like,
I don't think so. Not anymore. Or even, I would say not at all since then. Because like in WWE, he was like Ty Dillinger was his name, right? Yeah. And like when I was watching WWE, I feel like the only thing I seen him do was say 10 backstage. Like,
but the crowd was hot for him.
But that, like, I don't know, like if you're gonna define like yourself with something, your thing being that the crowd chants 10. I know people have gotten over with like weirder, crazier things, but like it just seems like
he looks like he's about to do 10, and then doesn't.
I love
That's
it.
his new. He's like withholding.
He's
just withholding.
like steps away from doing something like just the whole build to the match. Like his like Sean Spears Sports Center thing was great. Like, and gambling ringside with MJF, like having a dry erase board. Like I think like he's hitting the right.
No,
like,
he's really funny. I just wish
haven't liked him until now. Basically,
I think he needs to win a fucking match. That's my only thing. I don't think he had to lose to Dustin.
He's winning on Dark. He's beating all the job guys to bring it in.
Okay. Well, I think he could have used this win against Dustin to like make himself a little bit more seriously. I'm not sure what I was meant to like think about when he had Tully Blanchard like on his underwear in the front. You thought his bird was out, full stop.
I did for a minute because I was drawing and then I looked up and I seen that and like looked up and down really fast. Is his dick out? Yeah, it was not. Obviously, that was an interesting choice for sure.
A little bit too silly for me. That's like I was like, Sean Spears has got some of the best entrance music in the game, and
play it loud.
Trying to make a point, let him know that I'm the greatest around. He has to change his song. He has not won like any matches. Like he's not the greatest around.
In defense of your point, we did look at the rankings, and he was ranked below like the Librarian and Cutler. He was 9 and 10. Like
I'm pretty sure he was second last in the like win-loss.
Like who was last? Like Vacant. I can't even think of who would have been below. Like John. Like because even all the other people that are like kind of tertiary, we don't even think about. Like John Silver and like who are now in Dark Order. Like they all have more wins than him.
It's just if you're going to make a company so that where wins or losses mean so much, just throw a couple more wins on your boy Sean Spears.
Who should he beat though? I can't think of anyone he should beat.
He should have beat Dustin for sure.
Yes.
I think there are two kinds of superstars. Oh my God. I'm so WWE. There's two kinds of wrestlers on that roster. There's people who should win some matches and get some stripes, and there's people who absolutely are not going to be harmed by losses. And I think Dustin Rhodes is someone who's absolutely can take a loss and it won't matter at all. He's still a legend.
He's a legend. He could. Yeah, so, I agree. I guess like
I'm too mad about this. I admit I'm too annoyed.
Overall, in general, I didn't even really think we needed that match on the card. Like if we were cutting something off, like I don't know. Yeah, it's like I was fine. But it didn't feel like it added anything to me, like to the overall like pay-per-view or my personal enjoyment of it. Yeah, I don't know.
It was just kind of a breather, basically.
Yeah, let's put Sean and Dustin on the card is what it felt.
We skipped Ford and Statlander.
Yeah, I was happy to see that, and that match I was happy that was on the card, just because it's like Penelope Ford, in my mind, should be future women's champion for sure. Same thing with Chris Statlander. And I think it's cool to see AEW finally like giving their women more matches on the pay-per-view card. Because I feel like oftentimes it is only the women's title that's been defended. We haven't got a lot of just like kind of just a singles match, like a exhibition match. And I mean, this match obviously was built up a little more previously with it being Britt Baker versus Chris Stat. But Penelope Ford filling in, I thought was great. And
this was a solid match.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved all of their like the spots they've both done together in like the four-way matches and the tag matches they've both been in have been great. So it's cool to see them get a featured spot on the card like that.
I was feeling like they were just taking these like 4 women and just kind of putting them in every possible combination on
like tag match, fatal 4-way, triple threat, like. But
they were good matches, and Sheeta versus Nyla Rose, I thought just absolutely killed it.
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
There's been a lot of criticism for the AEW's women's roster, which I understand. A lot of their matches have lacked the fluidity.
It felt like more developmental than like an actual like fully formed division, and I feel like now it feels more like a division. Like this pay-per-view made it feels more like there's like a real division coming together.
Do you think this was the best match, or did you prefer?
No, by far this is my favorite. That was my favorite women's match I don't know. I think the only other one I can think of that I like as much was Becky versus Charlotte at the pay-per-view. Is it Evolution? Or Revolution? No, Revolution.
Evolution.
Evolution, yeah. Yeah, the only other one I can think of that I liked as much would put on this close to the same level, but I like this way more. Was Becky versus Charlotte. It was an I Quit match, I think. There were hardcore elements in it, and it was wild. But yeah, this Sheeta Nyla Rose, I way exceeded my expectations. I don't know.
Absolutely. I don't know. I thought Riho, there was something about watching her wrestle. It kind of felt like watching the original Spider-Man movie, where he feels too weightless. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like it's the CGI wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
Like Riho, it was okay when she was fighting other Joshi wrestlers, but I found her versus Nyla was just completely unbelievable to me. And I don't mean to be one of those people who everything has to be, super believable, but she just seemed so light, and Nyla was such a monster. I just didn't buy their matches together. It felt more like they were play fighting.
I liked their matches. Riho, for me, I felt like I never knew as a character. I never knew, and still don't know as a character. She seemed happy to be in AEW and would come out and smile with the belt, but I didn't get a sense of like who she was as a character and why I should be rooting for her, at least. With Sheeta, from the second her music hits, it's like, who is coming out right now? Holy shit, look at this sick looking person with like a kendo stick and cool gear.
Yeah.
And then just the intensity that Sheeta brings, it's like that person should be champion. Like that, like there's a moment like before she does the knee off the poker chip to Nyla Rose in that match where the camera zooms in on Sheeta's face and she's like panting and screaming. It's like, this person is, I hope she's going to win. And then like that kind of led to the sequence of her getting the 3 count, which this was the one match I actually like I didn't think she was going to win. I thought they were going to give Nyla like a longer reign. And I think now Sheeta will be the one that probably establishes the first like long,
really dominant
women's reign for sure. Like,
yeah, I agree. Because Rio only had it for a little bit and she was too much going back and forth between Japan. And they put on Nyla and I was like, okay, it looks like it's going to be Nyla for a long time, just because that's how you kind of make a championship serious, is you give someone like a long reign with it.
Totally.
Like Jericho with the AEW title, like he had it for what felt like almost the entire first year. So then when Moxley finally wanted it, it felt huge. So I was not expecting them to put it on Sheeta, but she's had such a dominant run on Dynamite. I think she had 5 wins in a row. And yeah, I was going to say the crowd's behind her, but there are no crowds. So.
I mean, but that's the thing. You could say that about the way Sheeta performs though. Like I think something, I would say her maybe more than almost anybody on the roster Sheeta is able to bring this level of performance that feels that way. It feels like she's rallying and the crowd is behind her.
She has the big match energy.
There's no crowd. Yeah. And I don't know. It's hard, like out of these last 3 matches here, it's hard to pick what one I would say, like obviously like all 3 of them are great, but like they're all great for such different reasons. And yeah, I don't know. I love this match. I can't wait to see more matches with Sheeta. And even just in the back of my mind, like going through AEW's women's roster now, it's like all of the different title defenses Sheeta will have. Like I feel like now we're really going to see the women's division come together in a great way.
Totally. And honestly, I would watch a series of Sheeta and Nyla Rose. Like they just totally work so well physically together. Like, I was watching that match being like, I could watch this like a series of these.
Yeah, give us 3 more.
Even just like them hot-shotting the belt back and forth. Like I wouldn't even care. Yeah. Like that would be sick. Okay, next was Brody Lee versus Moxley, which was the match that we were definitely the most skeptical about going in. Not about the match quality, but just the build.
I mean, I was skeptical of all, like everything. Yeah, like I knew Mox would bring it, but like, yeah, I wasn't sure this could be another.
Yeah, this could have been another kind of disappointing Moxley sort of title defense. But in writing the Intercontinental Championship article for Torture Act, I saw Brody Lee in several matches. I think they were mostly like multi-man ladder matches where he was just like sort of the destroyer, but his charisma in the ring and just his physicality and just how much of a like beast he was, and how much he could go. Like I could see the stamina in him. So I was like, I feel like this is going to be a great match, but I have not been sold at all on Brody Lee as a character.
Likewise, yeah.
He lacked conviction for me. Like I know he can say the words and everything, but he's more articulate than you expect, but not quite as articulate as I think he needs to be this like charismatic cult leader. I feel like the Vince McMahon comparisons have been sort of half-baked.
Yeah, it's just not it. Up until this match, for me, I've not enjoyed Brody Lee. I'm excited and also though, like with everything that we're watching right now, I feel like I'm giving everything the benefit of the doubt of like, well, it's an empty arena and people are figuring things out as they go. Like, let's give it time. Let's watch and see what happens. It's not like I've totally dismissed it, but just as a viewer, I've not connected with Brody Lee at all. I have not liked Dark Order, and now after watching this match, I like Brody Lee. I just don't like Dark Order. Like,
yeah,
it's just like Dark Order as a faction to me comes off kind of as just like a B video game that you'd get for free on Xbox Live. They feel like the villains of that, of like just like a video game no one has played before and that no one is playing, and they don't connect for me as a viewer.
And if I may complain about the same thing, I think part of that is because they don't win.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
They're supposed to be this dominant, scary faction, but they're easily fought away by whatever baby faces in the ring. I think they only had one time where they really kind of went hog wild at the end of the pay-per-view and just like ruined everything.
The last Dynamite of 2019. Yeah, totally. Yeah. That was the only time that it really felt like, okay, well, maybe they're going to do something with them now.
Because the idea is like they have to be disruptors, right? Like they're going to come in and like ruin your show.
Yeah, totally.
And they have been doing that, but not because they've been beating up everybody, but just because they've been wearing like weird button-up shirts for some reason, because you have to like dress for success. Like I don't get, despite what Thomas says, I don't get Brody Lee as a character. I don't know what makes him tick.
I've had I've had a few different people explain it to me too. Like I understand like the different like aspects of the character they're going for, and you do too, because you've just previously mentioned them, like the Vince McMahon stuff. He's kind of a cult leader. He is kind of manipulative, but all that's to say, like, Brody Lee killed it in this match. So yeah. Now I just want to see where he's going after it. Like,
this was the make or break moment for Brody Lee for me. Either he was going to continue to be a character that I criticized his ring gear and just felt like he lacked conviction. He brought the conviction in this match.
Totally.
And again, like, he lost in this match, but he looked like a fucking monster.
Awesome. Dude, when he comes out of the rampway with blood all over his face.
Yeah, so Moxley paradigm shifts him on the entranceway. They go through the entranceway. You said shades of ECW Heatwave.
Yeah, totally. So this is a total aside, but like the thing that brought me to ECW in the late 90s was their commercials in Cleveland, where Paul Heyman would scream ECW, and then they would show clips. And the one clip that was repeated over and over and over again was Taz doing the swinging DDT on Bam Bam through the entranceway. And yeah, that spot with Mox and Brody, total callback to that. And then, dude, Brody coming up out of that covered in blood, throws a rolling lariat, Mox ducks it, paradigm shift, like, what an ending sequence. And
also they gave him the Stone Cold from the Bret Hart match finish, where Brody doesn't actually tap out. He just passes out.
Yeah. It's like it was ref. Yeah, there was the commentary at the end was a little like confusing at that because they said that they're like, oh, ref stoppage. But then like I think someone else, like I think maybe JR said that, but then like Tony or Excalibur, they were like, well, John Moxley won. The ref, he choked him out. The ref stopped the match. Brody Lee passed out. Like, that was a great way to end that match. Brody looked like a beast. Moxley looked, tough and like the dominant champion that he should be.
I feel like this was the most feel-good pay-per-view like of the year, and I feel like it was on purpose. I feel like the AEW was like, this is a really tough time, and we're gonna pay off all these things. We're gonna give Cody the babyface victory. Lance is still gonna look strong. We're gonna give Moxley the babyface win. Brody's still gonna look like an absolute monster. And then obviously in the final Stadium Stampede, the Elite are gonna stand strong. And even the only heel win is Brian Cage in the ladder match. But I consider when someone makes a debut and then they win, the surprise like makes it kind of like a face victory.
Yeah, it was like, and he's like a cool bad guy. Like he's aligned with Taz. Like it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's not like this heel that we hate one. It's like a new heel.
You know what?
Gonna fuck shit up one.
MJF won, but Jungle Boy took him to the absolute limit.
Yeah, there was a point where I thought that might go to a draw, maybe. Yeah. Well, and MJF winning too is like we all love to hate him. So it's like that's, I would say, feel good in itself. Maybe not in the sort of traditional way of like a feel good movie, but it's fun to see MJF win and be a shithead and gets to lord his win over Jungle Boy now.
It's a great victory when Jungle Boy still looks strong. Like when Jungle Boy comes out looking stronger, arguably stronger than even if he had won.
True.
Like just taking MJF to the limit like that is the same thing as when Darby took Cody to the limit.
Yeah, it's very, very similar.
He did not need to win. He just needed to show that he was on the same level.
Dude, yeah. And kind of circling back, just like both of us leading up to this, we're so skeptical of the Brody Mox match. But yeah, I felt like I said, it's hard to pick what my favorite match of the last three are. The Mox, Brody, Sheeta Nyla, and Stadium Stampede. Obviously, like Stadium Stampede, like it's like something that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives now. Like that completely insane match, unforgettable match. Like, and I would say hard to like you were saying earlier, that's the thing about AEW is it gives you everything that you want in wrestling and things you didn't know you wanted until you saw AEW do it. It's incredible.
This Stadium Stampede, I was skeptical that they could top what they did at the end of Dynamite.
Right, yeah. Like how do you go beyond that? Yeah.
Basically, Stadium Stampede. They were in the backstage. Matt Hardy chased Sammy Guevara in a golf cart and hit him with it. And just like I've watched that clip over and over again. It honestly looks like he gets hit by that thing full force.
I think he gets hit. He obviously makes contact. It's a great. It's like a masterful pratfall. Like
incredible. Sammy Guevara is. I love Sammy.
Him and Jericho, master comedians. Like,
oh man, they're fantastic. This match, like, it starts. Each team is on the other end of the football field, and they literally like run into each other, like a football game.
Like I didn't even like consider that as a thing that could happen at the start of this match. Like that was incredible. Like the wall of death, and they're like. Is it the Elite that had weapons? Like they all had maybe the Elite was the one that had like trash cans and.
Well, Jericho has had his baseball bat for the longest time, but yeah, weapons everywhere. We don't see Hangman.
Dude, Aubrey with the whistle also was a great.
Right, she whistled. The game was on.
Then, they clash.
Wall of Death. We don't see Hangman. We're like, where's Hangman? Is he getting drunk somewhere? He comes out on a fucking horse, which is the first animal moment in AEW that actually felt like a good idea.
Yeah, I would say the only appropriate animal moment so far. Like there's like maybe 20 people on the field, no one's there, and he's just riding the horse across the field and then just meandering around the fucking stadium on the horse. Like
so many. I like me and you and Thomas were talking as we were watching it, and we would have watched that thing probably for another half an hour at least. All the hijinks through the stadium.
Another hour, yeah.
So
would have watched it all night.
there's a wrestling ring in the middle of the football field. They fight in there for a while. They all split up. As Thomas said, this is the only match that's so big. There's like B plots. There's like the match is happening, and then you have Hangman is wandering through the arena. You don't know where he is. Hager goes to find him, finds him in a bar backstage.
Then they have a drink together.
And then they start to kick the shit out of each other. Straight up, I think this was the inspiration. Felt like WWF No Mercy. They were on top of the billiard table at one point.
Dude, you kept saying that. Yeah, it's like, I feel like that match was booked. It was like, okay, everyone that watches this, and most of us love Nintendo 64 wrestling games. How could we book a match to be a Nintendo 64 wrestling game?
Well, and they have the company who made that game making the new AEW game.
That's an unbelievable.
That's going to be the absolute most insane thing.
You brought up the fact that you were talking about how the throwing someone through a billiard table, like in No Mercy, was like mind blowing to you when you first played it.
Oh,
and then we got this, where it's like they're fighting on a billiard table in this main event in this match. Like,
it was absolutely insane. So Matt Jackson actually has rib issues right now. He's taped up. It wasn't just for show.
Is that real though?
That's real. And he does a moonsault off of
the goalpost. What the fuck?
On the football field.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. That was maybe the one spot in my mind. It's like, okay, that would be crazy if they did that. But I also don't know just offhand how high goalposts are. So it's like, oh, maybe that's like probably too high to jump off those. But yeah, it's like the size. It's like a balcony dive, basically.
And it wasn't even the craziest dive.
No, yeah.
In this match.
Yeah, not at all.
I can't believe these people. They are absolutely amazing. There's a spot in a pool where Matt Hardy gets put under the pool. Apparently it's got the waters of the Lake of Reincarnation in it. Matt Hardy comes out as V1 Matt Hardy.
Did you see online everyone is saying people are saying that was insensitive?
No. Why did they say it was insensitive?
I've not been. The one thing that I will say also about this pay-per-view is it was so satisfying. Normally after a pay-per-view, after we're done talking to each other for the night, I go on Squared Circle and like on other wrestling websites and YouTube to watch post-media scrums and stuff. But this time I didn't do that just because it was so satisfying and still haven't done that. So I kind of have been tuned out of like wrestling news for a little while. But the person from Crime Time, what is that person's name? That Shad, that passed away.
Oh, Shad Gaspard. Okay.
Tragically, they were saying there are a lot of people are kind of like saying that it was insensitive to do the driving spot because of that. It didn't cross my mind while I was watching that spot, but I also
much
not paid
less
a lot of attention to that story either.
Was not on my mind nearly as much as when I was watching Randy Orton.
Well, that's what people are comparing it
fight.
To. Yeah.
I don't think there's any comparison personally because it was like a pool and he was like underwater. But
and it's like Ortiz and Santana, who like I feel like the thing I love about them is that they border on basically being like Looney Tunes characters, but then they also, in being Looney Tunes characters, will ruthlessly fuck you up.
Yes.
So to me, that spot just felt very fun. It felt lighthearted. Like Matt Hardy was like
Yeah, he changed into a thing. I don't think it was ever seemed like he was actually going to drown. In fact, as soon as he was underwater, a graphic came up. It was like
I know they cut him underwater doing the Hardy Boys taunt.
And then there's like the matter of fact.
Right,
like, Matt can hold his breath for like 153 seconds or something like that.
Dude, Ortiz is like yelling about how he can't swim, like, and it's 3 feet of water, like.
So you're telling me that there are pools at stadiums? This is a normal
thing? That's a normal thing, yeah. It's not at every single stadium. Like, obviously, the stadiums in Cleveland don't have that because it's Cleveland and the weather in like a football game in December is freezing. But most warm weather stadiums have pools. Like, I used to go to visit my family in Arizona, and the Diamondback Stadium has a pool at it. So, yeah, I think
as soon as this whole coronavirus thing is up, me and you are going to get a pool suite at an AEW event.
That would be great. I would love that.
Live stream from a pool next podcast.
Dude, let's do it. At the very least, we gotta go find a pool at a stadium and watch sports.
My 2 favorite spots from this match. One of them is just when Jericho is on the ground, not when he was demanded a replay from Aubrey, although that was amazing too. They went into the replay tent and watched the pinfall.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was so funny. But when Jericho was on the ground, and then I think Matt Hardy takes the line marker and goes over his body. Hangman, yes, goes over him with the line marker, and Tony fucking Schiavone just loses it.
Dude, yeah, he like is genuinely just laughing, like, because it is so funny.
Good.
Yeah,
it was. The image of it was amazing. Just like Jericho as a comedy character, like that's a comedy character. Like, to me, it's not Shawn Spears where he's just constantly losing and humiliated all the time. It's like, you're a dominant badass. You are the champion for a while. You win some matches, but then also you're silly. Like you said with Santana and Ortiz, they're Looney Tunes characters, but they will fuck you up.
Yeah, totally. And
Jericho is definitely like a Looney Tunes character, but he will also fuck you up.
Yeah, Jericho brings like 1980s, like, I feel like screwball comedy, like Rodney Dangerfield sort of like vibe to like what he does.
Brings what do you call it? What is the show that WWE did until they fired everyone who was on it? It's like the 80s parody. Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah. I can't.
Southpaw.
Yeah, Southpaw.
Southpaw Regional Wrestling.
Yeah, totally. Just like Jericho genuinely is so funny. Like, and just the spot that he repeated from Dynamite where he has the cone on his head and he's laughing like a witch is so funny to me. Like, it's such a weird thing to do within that match. And so, like, it's just great. Yeah, it's so funny and so fun to watch.
I think it's what separates AEW from WWE, because WWE, all the comedy feels so like it was written.
Right. Whereas like with Jericho putting that cone on his head, he saw a cone and did that in the match. Probably that was just the thing he thought to do because he thought it'd be funny.
And it's his sense of humor. And
no
it's
one's
him,
writing him to do that. Yeah,
exactly. It's just like him and them expressing themselves. And like we've been saying, we don't necessarily find a lot of, like, everybody on the roster is so funny, but Jericho and those guys, like
Sammy and Jericho, like, legitimate. It's a lot of like wrestling stuff. I feel like doesn't, like, wrestling comedy doesn't generally make me actually laugh. Like, it makes me laugh in a way like, oh, that's funny, like that I would if we were watching it in person. But like the stuff Sammy and Jericho do, and it's all of Inner Circle basically, like actually like legitimately makes me laugh. And
totally.
Yeah, him and Sammy both are like masters at like being genuinely funny and not being like cringy. Like, I hope no one is watching me watch this because this is like embarrassing.
Totally.
Yeah, it's great.
That's how I felt during the Shawn Spears match when he had Tully on his underwear. Like, how would I explain this to a person who walked in the room right now?
Yeah, well, maybe that's going to lead to something great. You never know,
man. This match ended with something that I could not believe that they were doing.
King Kong one-winged angel.
Kenny is on the edge of the like the what do you even call that? The stadium seating.
Yeah.
He's like 25 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
And puts Sammy Guevara up for a one-winged angel and does it onto obviously a crash pad, but like,
who cares? Still, yeah, it looks sick. Like,
it looks sick and it's just
safe.
Crazy.
And they're not hurt. Like, it was just a cool spot. Like, I don't know. It's like I love the thing I love about AEW is that they are finding ways to do those kinds of spots, and it's not like, okay, Mankind actually threw himself off of a cell, so now I got to try to figure out how to do that,
how to top that, which you cannot do.
And legitimately top it in a dangerous way where I might end my career. Whereas with this, it's like we get that visual, but it's not like the risk is pretty low for both of them.
Well, it's the same as the unsanctioned match. It was like a death match, but everything was gimmicked in such a way. Like, you still got the amazing image of like Moxley like crawling through broken glass
without crawling through broken glass.
Without actually crawling through broken glass. Like, it's still there's still a barbed wire spider web. It still looks amazing, but they're not like getting huge hunks of flesh like ripped out.
It's for me like that, like death. I like actual death matches, but I don't like that like people actually do get really hurt, have life-ending injuries during them. And for me, it is mostly just like I think the aesthetics of death matches are cool, and I love that they have found ways to do these spots that we all grew up watching and loving, like this big one-winged angel drop. It's a perfect way to end it. I actually didn't think it was going to end there, but where do you go from that? Like the alternate angle where Kenny, like you see him from below and he kind of cuts from the top of the frame down to the bottom of the frame. Like I can't believe there's that much hang time on that.
I can't imagine what must have been going through Sammy's head at that moment. Like he's just completely, my Lord.
If anyone can do it, it's the two of them. I mean, they're both so smooth in everything they do. So,
dude, Sammy has impressed me so much.
Dude, favorite discovery on the roster, I'd say for me.
Oh,
yeah.
What was his match that was so crazy? Was it him versus Darby recently on Dynamite?
Yeah, well, he and Darby had that match at Revolution where he did that crazy senton through the table on the outside.
Yes.
It was just this bunch of, like, that match is one of my favorite matches of AEW this year. Just a lot of spots.
They are doing such a great job of, like, elevating the people who you already expect to be in the main event.
Totally.
Like at first I was not liking how it was a lot of just kind of like WWE guys were coming in to challenge Mox for the title because he's also a WWE guy, but it actually makes sense. Bring those guys in early, have them lose to Mox the way that Hager and Brody Lee have lost to Mox, and very slowly you're building up the undercard of all these people who are going to be the champion in like 2-3 years.
Yeah, they have like a decade's worth of like storylines they could do just with who is on their roster now. Like,
yeah, actually, I think we should go full YouTube and do a tier list ranking of the entire AEW roster, where we rank them based on obviously just like how cool they are and like how good they are at promos and stuff, how good they are as wrestlers, but also how good they've been booked. Because in any other company, your top guy is Kenny Omega.
Right.
But in this company, he's a
tag champ that does a lot of cool shit.
He's a solid mid-carder, but he hasn't ascended to greatness yet. And I know a lot of fans are a little bit wary about that, but it makes sense because you have to assume most American audiences have not been following him in New Japan. So you have to like introduce them to Kenny, let him put all these great matches under his belt before he challenges for the top title.
Well, and they've shown, like, I feel like they've done a great job of like showing people like you and I who have followed him through New Japan that person is there whenever he needs to be. Like the Pac Kenny Iron Man match was like a G1, like, you know, banger. Like it's like
unreal,
like 5-star
and
like incredible match. And that was just out of nowhere. So here's the TV match. Hey, the Best Bout Machine's still here, and wait till this person, I think, probably will take the title off of Moxley, like, you know, in
maybe sooner rather than later too. Like, if you look at the champions right now in AEW, like we were talking about the other day, but AEW champion Jon Moxley, TNT champion Cody Rhodes, tag champs Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, women's champ Shida. That is absolutely stacked.
Crazy. Yeah, like
incredible.
And then just the people waiting in the wings for title shots or to be champion, like Pac, Pentagon, Phoenix, like Darby, like it's just ridiculous.
MJF.
Yeah. Now Brian Cage, like there's just
Lance Archer, like would be very surprising if Lance Archer didn't enter into the world title picture at some point.
Probably sooner rather than later too. I mean, his match with Mox at Wrestle Kingdom this year was great, and you know the two of them.
I forgot about that. Yeah, wasn't that a replacement match too?
No. Mox vacated the title. Yes. Archer and Juice fought. Archer, I believe, won
it off Juice.
Yes, and then Juice and Mox fought each other for the title. Oh, Juice got an automatic title shot, right? And then on night one of Wrestle Kingdom, Mox faced Archer and beat Archer for the title, and then Juice fought Mox. In my mind, I was thinking that there was at some point Mox and Juice had number one contender match, but it was just Mox faced Archer on night 1, and then Mox went on to face Juice on night 2, and then won, I think.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
Well, the internet exists, so if you are wrong, people can find out.
True. Anyways, yeah, seeing Archer face Mox for the title is going to be great if that happens.
I cannot wait to see, honestly, what happens on the next Dynamite.
Yeah, from here on out, Stadium Stampede way over delivered, and just that ending shot there where it's like the Elite on the football field while Matt Hardy is kind of just doing his thing, like off to the side. It's like, if you could, like, before AEW existed, if you could fantasize how a pay-per-view would end, it's like, well, what if the Elite are doing their taunts on Tony Khan's football field, and also Matt Hardy is there and is doing his broken thing, and he's on their team, and they just face Chris Jericho and LAX and Sammy Guevara. It's like, it's exceeding what I thought about what it would be.
I have to stop doubting them, because we both felt the same thing when Matt Hardy first came in. He was just doing a lot of crazy promos.
Yeah, just
wasn't a lot of matches.
Rehashing what he did before. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you weren't vibing it that much. I thought it was okay, but we were cutting it slack because it was coronavirus and not everything was how it should be. But now seeing the Elite and Matt Hardy, and seeing that, he's not exactly part of the Elite. He's like their friend.
Yeah, it's cool that they're doing that too.
To,
it's like
go fight other bad guys.
Ally. Like, why would that not exist in the wrestling universe?
It's like a G.I. Joe universe or something like that. They have to like call this like special hero to come.
Yeah, totally. Like, yeah, it's like they're doing like what Marvel did.
Totally. Yeah, great ending. Can't wait to see if Blood and Guts actually happens now, or if that kind of.
I feel like we could forget it. Yeah, like. I think we should see the other matches, but do we, like, that was the Elite versus, like, I think we'll see a Blood and Guts match, but maybe it'll be like kind of the way War Games is, where it's like next February or March, whatever was going to happen. They'll do Blood and Guts again, but maybe that Blood and Guts match at that time, maybe it will make sense for it to be Dark Order versus somebody. And then maybe at that time, both of us will be like Brody and Hell have had a year of awesome matches. And we'll all be, you and I will finally be stoked on Dark Order. And it's like, wow, Brody is teamed with, the original tag team of Dark Order, Uno and Stu Grayson.
I think Dark Order, we were talking about this, I think they have an incredible amount of potential if they actually started to like storyline pick up wrestlers who haven't had the best AEW career so far. Like, I think Sean Spears, like, if Sean Spears got recruited by Dark Order and put on a mask and started looking like really badass and stuff, like, I think that would be great.
Dude, Sean Spears in like a luchador sort of gimmick with like a mask, but a mask that's above the Creepers masks would be pretty sick, actually.
Man, they like Christopher Daniels should be in Dark Order by now. Like, they don't need him in SCU.
Do you think some of this has to do with the fact that Dark Order is trapped in Canada? Like the two. That's why they haven't been on. Uno and Stu Grayson are not able to come, I guess. Right.
That could be it.
Borders closed. Because Daniels, they teased Daniels, but that didn't happen. They teased Cutler, but the match. Because
Daniels is like a lame dad at this point. Like, Daniels has got to get out of SCU. He's bringing down the SCU stock by like coming out with the microphone and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
It's
I don't need to see my uncle pretend to sing in a band that I don't.
And
really
honestly, like he's like. It sucks because like Jericho's 49 and he's like at the top of his game, but Christopher Daniels is not at the top of his game. Like, he doesn't move the way he used to. And Kaz is awesome. Like, Kaz rules. And I love Scorpio Sky. I think he has an incredible look. Great on the mic. Again, I think another future AEW world champion. Like,
I think that kind of speaks to the brilliance of Chris Jericho though. Cause it's like not like, cause you're saying like, I feel like Chris Daniels still is kind of like doing what we loved him for previously, whereas Jericho is continually
right.
I mean, it's a cliche at this point that he's just endlessly reinventing himself, but he's not trying to be like Lionheart, ECW Chris Jericho. He is.
But I would take some like old ass like scary Christopher Daniels.
Totally, yeah. That's like what I'm saying.
Eye makeup and like his like chest piece there with the like.
Oh my god, yeah! Give Daniels like kind of like the gallows, like crazy, all blacked out like eyes.
Dark Order is such a good idea. It's just I find the presentation like honestly, I know I keep going on and on about this, but so Vince McMahon or Brody Lee comes in with his like weird like blue jacket, gray pants thing that I don't enjoy. Like he should have just like a perfect
His
suit,
slacks,
just
you
like
gotta go. Yeah.
I don't like it at all. And tells the Dark Order they need to start dressing for success and wearing button-ups. Like how they look like they work at the Keg. Like it literally makes no sense. Like they don't look scary or intimidating, and you don't need to wear a dress shirt to be successful in wrestling. In fact, I would say that would impede you from a good lariat.
Yeah, totally. And just, I mean, obviously we got to let it breathe, but at the same time, we've let it breathe for a long time. Like, I think Brody has the potential to do something with it now. Like, when the crowds come back, and with Brody, like the story Brody's telling, like maybe his loss is going to lead somewhere with the Dark Order. Like,
but they need to do something because there's too much of just Brody beating up all the Dark Order members right now.
Yes.
And it's like, why are they following him?
And he lost. So
he lost. They all lost. He beats them up. They never look strong. Why do they exist? Like they need to be like the NWO. They need to come in and like fuck shit up and like, you know,
add a couple more stars to the stable. That's it.
The stables and man, like we've talked about it before, but they have enough tag teams right now that they could have a separate tag division and trios division.
Yeah, they could do like a G1 with the tag division and with the trios division. It's wild.
It's absolutely wild. We need to like make a list.
Yeah.
And just see like who's like all the tag teams and all the trios, like because some of them it like makes sense, like, you know, best friends, they could be either, but I like them as a trio.
Yeah,
like, I think they're a great trio.
Yeah.
Death Triangle, like
taking the
Lucha Bros, because
give them all the screen time for the next once Pac gets to the States.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait to see Dynamite this coming Wednesday.
Yeah, man, and we will be back
Yep.
next week to talk about that.
Totally.
You
got a classic match for me, Mark?
I don't got a classic match for you, John. I'm sorry. You give me your classic match. Next week, I'll have one for you. How about that?
Dude, my classic match was one that I hope you watch after this specifically.
I will watch it.
I don't know if you've seen it before. Did you ever watch the finals of the first J Crown, the Great Sasuke versus Ultimo Dragon?
I don't know what the J Crown is. I don't know who's the first one you said, Satchmo?
The Great Dude, the Great Sasuke.
I don't even know who that is.
Super Juniors.
Is it spelled like Shinsuke, Sasuke?
Sasuke. He, like, I feel like a lot of people, like, I know that you don't have easy access to like GCW or a lot of like other crazy like indie stuff in the States, but he's a luminary of the Super Junior division from the late 90s, like on the same level as, you know, Ultimate Dragon, Jushin Liger, Hayabusa, and those kinds of like juniors that established the style that we all love today. But yeah, the J Crown was like a unified like title. It's 8 different championship titles from 8 different promotions, including the WWF, New Japan, War.
Really?
Yeah, like so, like it was defended. Like the tournament happened in 1996. Where all of the like the title holders came together, titles were on the line, the winner takes all of everyone's titles. The reason that, like, I was reading more about it online, and apparently the reason it ended is because WWF demanded their title back.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, Great Sasuke wins, and dude, it's not a long match, but it's like, even by today's standards, pretty insane. Like Sasuke is known for doing really big spots. And there's one spot that he does, and it's like old school. At the tournament and the final match happened during like the 1996 G1, and Sasuke is on the top rope, and he does like a kind of like a variation of like a front flip to the outside, to the concrete, onto Ultimo Dragon, and just like all of like the spots that, like, I don't know, all the spots that we see now where, like, I can't believe that happened. Like, I feel like this match has. Sasuke ultimately wins. And it's on YouTube. Just look up Great Sasuke versus Ultimo Dragon J Crown.
It's just wild when you watch stuff like from the early 90s where you feel like, oh man, like this is like a proto Young Bucks, or like
Dude,
this is like,
it feels like it's like Pac versus Kenny Omega, but it's in 1996.
See, I'm already sold.
Yeah.
So John has a much bigger knowledge of New Japan than I do. And I would say just in general wrestling. I'm pretty much just a WWE guy, but what we've been doing is watching a lot of super cards that we're booking. We're looking up, what are the greatest WCW matches? What are the greatest NJPW matches? And we're putting together these super cards that we watch for me at least, is just to edify myself more about older wrestling and all these different promotions. So I think the next one that we're going to do is a Will Ospreay supercard, and I'm guessing that will be mostly New Japan matches, but not exclusively. So I'm looking forward to just watching.
We should watch the J Crown entirely, I'll say too, as a future supercard.
I think the problem is we just have too much shit to watch.
Yeah, at this point, for sure. We'll be releasing the lists too through our Patreon.
Absolutely. I and we keep grades from all the matches that we've been watching.
Every match we've ever watched together, yeah. Well, starting this year. Yeah.
Starting this year.
Every match
from now on.
Since 2017 TLC, we graded Emma and Asuka. I actually remember liking that match a lot, but I can't give it a grade.
We don't even have Revolution graded. We need to go back because we didn't watch that together.
Right, because that was the week that Siobhan came to Dynamite with me, and she was visiting me, and didn't want to dedicate 2 nights to wrestling, so then I watched Revolution.
I can't imagine why. And me and John were laughing about it so much because it seemed like every couple of weeks there was a pay-per-view, whether it was like a WWE, NXT, or something. And obviously AEW Revolution was like we were looking forward to that probably more than any other pay-per-view that had come out. But it was so difficult to try to imagine how you could explain that to a partner, like why that particular pay-per-view
was meaningful, because we watched so many of them. So it's like,
we watched so many of them, but it was like,
it's AEW's first pay-per-view of 2020. Like
it felt like one of the worst ones
it was definitely
to miss.
Yeah.
But it won't happen again.
Totally.
So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to put out our supercard lists, our grades lists, and you can watch along with us.
Yeah.
Well, all right. This is probably way longer than either of us had planned.
I'm happy about that, though. Where can everyone find you online, Mark?
Don't look for me. No, I'm just kidding. I am only on Instagram because I can't tweet at Waste of Taste, and you're at John F. Malta.
John F. Malta, and
on multiple platforms.
On pretty much everything, and you can follow Torture Wracked at Torture Wracked on Instagram.
Yeah, we're gonna try to build that one up
for sure
as part of the Torture Wracked expanded universe.
Yeah, Media Holdings Empire. Listen, John's in Brooklyn.
I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick. This is a international podcast.
Exactly.
It's absolutely crazy.
Torture Wracked New Brunswick. I'm in Torture Wracked East.
We're both kind of at Torture Wracked East because this is the East
Coast
of Canada.
We're both in the Northeast, basically.
But that means that when we actually get together, when you come to New Brunswick or I come to Brooklyn, and we can record like an episode
in person,
live in the studio.
Totally. Can't wait for that.
It will be way better.
This has been a great first episode, man.